welcome back. Oh, it's a good day when Aubrey Cohen comes all the way over here, joins us from the Seattle PI to talk real estate. Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I was supposed to be here a little earlier, except I got sick and lost my voice.
That does not bode well for radio.
Yeah, no, not so much. It's always surprising to everybody when I don't talk.
Yeah, well, I would say that at least you can continue writing.
That's right.
You just need your fingers. I imagine you type.
I type fast. I write fast. I can, if I can't interview people, I'll just make it up. It's all good.
Have you ever used Dragon speech software?
No.
It's amazing. You should try it.
Okay.
Anyways, well, Aubrey, you just wrote a couple articles on King County housing prices, and we've kind of hit on this a little bit. It seems to be the water cooler conversation again. Real estate's getting hot. People are more interested in it. Tell us a little bit about the article you wrote just with house prices. Rising by double digits.
Yeah, we get that report every month from the Northwest MLS, and for the first time since the crash, King County house prices were up by double digits. We've actually had that in Seattle for a couple of months now. The median price in King County is now $380,000, a 10.1% year-over-year increase. In Seattle, $425,000, 11.1% year-over-year increase. It's, good times are here again if you're a homeowner, I guess.
If you're a homeowner that wants to sell a house, I guess. Otherwise,
well, people just like to feel like their home is worth more. Makes everybody happy. There's all those studies that show people feel richer. They go out, they spend more money. It's good for the economy in general, in that sense.
Nothing like money sitting in your house that you can't access to make you go spend more money.
Yeah, that's right. I don't. You could tell me what the home equity market's like these days.
Oh, it's really good. They're just giving away home equity lines these days. It's kind of surprising how strong everything really is. This is real data. This kind of gets away from the feel good, hey, we sold our house a little more, the multiple offer stuff, which is real data, but these are kind of the hard numbers. They're coming out in very positive droves.
Well, each set of numbers tells you something a little different. This tells you the median price of whatever happens to sell. And so it is affected by what sells, and that can change. For instance, when prices were still going down, there was some sense, I heard one person say they were actually going down more, but that was being masked by the fact that people were using the falling prices to buy bigger homes. That can affect it. In this case, one of the things we have going on is there are a lot fewer what we call distressed homes that are in foreclosure or in danger of foreclosure than there were a year ago. Those sell at a discount. So if you have fewer of those, that affects that median price. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you own I always use Ballard. If you own a $400,000 Ballard Craftsman that it's really worth 10%, 11% more than it was a year ago. Then again, Ballard's hot. Maybe it's worth more than that. So
you just want your house to be worth more, Aubrey, don't
always. Makes me feel good, right? No, but the point is that things affect that, and one of the things we have going on here is that decline in distressed homes.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are other indexes like the S&P Case-Shiller home price indices that try to look at repeat sales of the same homes to really get at what's going on. And we don't have recent data for that yet. That lags by a couple of months. That hasn't been showing these kinds of increases. But as I said, that's on a lag.
So when you start looking at some of these houses, I think what I hear you saying is if you own a home, it's not maybe necessarily yours is worth less. It's that the house down the street isn't selling for less.
Yeah. And it's just
or worth more.
Yeah. You just have to know that these are aggregate statistics. They don't necessarily apply to your neighborhood or to your kind of house, and they have these moving parts in them that can affect things.
So you also wrote that this heated market isn't really renewing the buy at all costs frenzy because people used to think they were going to get priced out of real estate. They'd never be able to buy a home. I remember. There was, I think the National Association of Realtors even put something out like that at one point in time. Don't get priced out of homes, And then it came down, but now it seems to be a little bit more tempered, I guess, as an increase in the frenzy.
Yeah, nobody wants to look foolish. And so what happened in the previous crash sort of made everybody a little gun shy. So now, nobody wants to get caught up in the next frenzy or feel like they overpaid for that home. So people will, they'll buy a home that they're confident is a good home, is a good investment, that they're going to want to stay in. They're not going to buy just on the heat of the moment, feeling they need to get it now.
Yeah, I guess that's better.
It is better for the long run. I mean, when we have these bubbles like that, it's, we've seen what it does to the economy. So it's good. I'll tell you one thing that's making it hard for people to make these kinds of more thoughtful decisions is the inventory, because there aren't a lot of homes out there, and that does tend to lead to people starting to feel like, oh dear, I gotta do that. And you do have these multiple offer situations now. You do have a little bit of those people willing to put in those escalator clauses and pay a little bit more. I hope it doesn't get too out of control. I think probably we will start to see, well, maybe I'm just hoping we see some more inventory come on. But in that last month we were talking about, Seattle inventory was at 1.8 months, 1.8 months worth of homes for sale at the current sales pace. Balanced is generally thought of as being 6 months. So really, really low inventory.
There's also this point that I want to bring up, though, that people are getting in a frenzy. There's low inventory, but it may be because it's not being thought of, and this is from your article, it's just an investment. There's this investment more in a lifestyle rather than just financial. And so it would seem that would, control prices, because people aren't just going, I'm going to buy a house no matter what it is, and I'm going to make a bunch of money, and I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to buy my next house. People are maybe a little bit more personally vested in their choice that they're making for any home.
Well, hopefully people realize, and maybe they do realize more than they used to, that when you buy a home, it's a big deal. You could be there for a while. It's not necessarily like, you buy a shirt you don't like. You can just kind of get rid of it.
Can't give your house to Goodwill, can you,
Right,
Aubrey?
exactly. So it might not be so easy to turn around, sell that, buy another house. And so they're really thinking through, okay, if I were to feel like I'm going to be in this house for a decade, would I be okay with that? Is this going to suit my needs? Is that thing that I think I can live with now, is that really going to annoy me? Before it would be like, could I live here? Now it's like, is there anything about this house that's going to really drive me crazy or is not going to suit my needs?
That's until you meet the neighbors.
Well, I'm always amazed, in good markets and bad, how little people pay attention to things outside the property itself. They look at the house, they look at the yard, but you talk about neighbors. People they discover after they buy a house that they live like half a mile from a gravel mine. And it's just like, you didn't see the trucks?
Right.
Or they find out that green lot at the end of the road that they thought was some sort of nature preserve was a lot that a developer owned that was zoned for 4 houses an acre or whatever it is. And then somebody comes, the developer says, all right, I'm going to build now. And they go crazy. People, that's another story, I guess. But I've covered that stuff for years.
But, that is an interesting point, because you do tend, and I think a lot of people do, and Michael can actually maybe get into this a little bit more, but people tend to look at the house. They look at the yard. They look at how many bedrooms it has. But
School district. They always look at school district.
But nobody, is looking. I don't know if people are, kind of peering over the fence into the neighbor's house, seeing what's going on in there.
It's a good thing to notice the state of the property, and just what's around and to really think about it. I know these, there's we're up where my in-laws live. There's this school, and the neighbors around the school are always complaining about the noise in the schoolyard. It's like, well, they had to have noticed the school. It's right there.
Right.
So in this case, they probably saw the school and never thought, hey, there's kids there and they play. Kids make noise.
They went during summer vacation, like, nobody goes to this school. It's so nice and quiet. It's just a big playground.
Yeah, and I always think it's the height of gall to buy a house near a school and then complain about the noise.
I don't think if you're going to buy a house near a school, you better like kids.
Yeah, we live right on a playground, and we hear the shrieking, and it's happy, But you gotta know what's gonna happen.
And after a year or two, you probably tune it out anyways.
More or less.
Again, we're here with Aubrey Cohen from the Seattle PI. Aubrey, you talked a little bit about inventory. And, of course, it is more difficult for people to find the house they've been looking for because, as you said, 1.8 months of inventory is like a third of what's supposed to be a healthy market. Other people have also talked about the amount of potential bank owns that may or may not be coming on the market, also known as the shadow inventory. And you wrote another article about that. The foreclosure activity is up, but for the first quarter, but it's actually down from last year. Where do you see in some of your discussions you've had with people the shadow inventory story going?
That's a good question, because people have been holding the specter over our heads for a while now that, as things have started to improve, they've said, yeah, but there's a whole lot of shadow inventory out there. We've got a whole lot of mortgages that are delinquent. These homes, there's potential for them to come flooding into the market, and it hasn't happened so far. Our distressed inventory, as I said, is down from last year, and now people are starting to say, well, maybe we're not going to get that big influx. On a national level, there's been talk that that governments and lenders have taken actions that have just sort of pushed it off a little bit, that we still have a bunch of homes that will be coming down the pipe, but we've had moratoriums and things like that have sort of held it off. It's clogs in the process.
There's also this potential push off because it's an election year, isn't there?
I'm not sure how much that's happening. I always wonder how much those sorts of political pressures really filter that far down. But what I was going to say is, it seems like in Seattle, I think that's less, that potential seems to be less than it was and less than it is in other markets, especially because the values are turning around. As values pick up, if you're behind on your mortgage, it's easier to sell and deal with it. I think, Mike probably has some experience with this, but I think that lenders are more willing to do short sales and where you sell a home for less than it's worth because of the mortgage balance is more than the home is worth. But that gap is narrowing as values are coming back up, and it's probably making that whole thread a little bit less.
Well, certainly, especially when you look at other parts of the country. I know, like Stockton, California, places like that, you had 60 to 80% decline.
Yeah,
in Detroit even more. So of course those houses have much less to go on.
Well, and there were so many more houses in markets like as you mentioned, the Central Valley of California, in the Sun Belt, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Florida. You had these huge tracts of development. In Miami, many more condo buildings. There were just so many more homes to work through. And we just didn't have that level of overdevelopment. We had the same thing other people had, but when things turn around, I think it's easier for us to recover because it just wasn't the same extreme.
It will certainly be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 to 12 months. Aubrey, thanks so much for joining us. Stick around for the end of the show. Love to get some more of your opinions, but we do have to go to break. When we come back, Michael Busaka is going to join us from Skyline Properties to talk a little bit more about the short sales and what it takes to buy one in this crazy time in real estate in Seattle. We'll be right back.